Say a couple of things up front. First of all, it's a real honor to participate in the Hometown Heroes Awards. This is something I've participated in the past, and it's really something I hope all New Yorkers focus on. Everyday public employees who go so far above and beyond, literally to the point of saving lives. And we got to also focus on some of the good news stories in this world, and this is a profoundly good example of that. I also want to say something about an issue near and dear to my heart, which is pre-K for all of our students. You know, Commissioner King, the State Education Commissioner, spoke yesterday in Albany. And he said something that I think very clearly validates our plan and our vision for how to get pre-K to every child who needs it in New York City. Commissioner King estimates that every year, statewide, it's going to take about $1.6 billion to provide full-day pre-K to all the children in New York State. I think this is a clear validation from our top state education official that it takes substantial resources to do this right, that full-day pre-K will be an extraordinary difference maker in the lives of our children, and as I've said many times, will uplift the entire school system. This will be an investment that changes the future trajectory of our school system, that makes all the other resources we put into our schools more effective in the way we use them. This, to me, is something when we get done and we look back, we're going to say that this was one of the smartest investments we ever made. But it's a substantial investment. And Commissioner King, who has a very strong vantage point on what we need all over the state, made clear, if you really want to make sure every kid in New York State got full-day pre-K, that's $1.6 billion per year. Now, the plans that have been put forward in Albany and as alternatives to what I've talked about don't even come close to that level of pay. Excuse me, of resource, I should say. The fact is, our plan between the pre-K and the after-school components, $530 million per year, over 5 years, reliable, consistent funding. That would be a total of $2.6 billion over 5 years. We can put together those resources from our own taxpayers. We should have the right to do that. It's not Albany's place to tell New York City what we can and cannot do. In fact, when we have a way to pay for something that we desperately need, Albany should be only too happy to agree and let us do that, as they did just last week with Ulster County agreeing to their sales tax increase so they could deal with pressing needs. The bottom line here today is I've put forward a plan, as you saw from the white paper that we issued earlier in the week, that does require substantial resources to do a big job. It's something we're ready to do right now. But no alternative has been put forward that would actually reach the levels necessary to provide pre-K full day for every child in this city. This is the only plan that would do that. Commissioner King's assessment only makes that clearer. With that, welcome your questions. If you have any on that topic first, and then we can go to other topics. Any on the pre-K topic? Just on pre-K, since I'm on it already. Yes, go ahead, Grace. First of all, there's been no, with all due respect, there's been no specific plan put forward with the dollar figures we need. The only plan that was ventured out there was on a much lower dollar figure. Second, there's been no plan put forward with reliable funding. You can't start this program up for a year and then have it stall. It's just unacceptable. My plan is 5 years of reliable funding. The only thing that's been put forward by the governor is a broad concept, and the few dollar figures that have been bandied about are quite minimal. And in fact, his own education commissioner made clear that this is a huge endeavor, and it's not something that can be achieved with half measures. So I think it's important to level with the people and level with the taxpayers. Say, this is what it's going to take to actually fundamentally improve our school system and to reach a lot of kids who are being left behind. By the way, you know, the more we've talked about early childhood education, and I appreciated President Obama's comments last night on this topic, the more we realize if we don't make this investment, we're literally damning a generation of kids not to make it. You know, we know if kids aren't at grade level by third grade, their chances of ever getting back to grade level are limited. This is a chance to actually reach kids in time and get them on the right track, but you can't do it with half measures. You need to do the real thing. And my plan is literally, as the white paper makes clear, enough money to do this the right way from the beginning and sustain it. There's been no alternative plan put forward that would do that. Anything else on pre-K first? Yes? No, our staffs are talking all the time. I talk to the governor with some regularity, but our staffs are talking all the time. We made very clear in our public statement that it's obvious from Commissioner King's analysis that our plan is actually dealing with real numbers. You know, I think it's really important to be straightforward with people about how much things cost, and that there would have been no way to achieve this kind of progress in education without a dedicated tax. And so I think, again, Commissioner King's comments said better than I ever could what the real costs are of doing this right, and I think very much validated our plan. Yes, Rich. He's talking about the state of New York. Look, let's face it, I have to tell you, there are parts of New York State where there's still half-day pre-K. I was talking to some of the leaders in Albany when I was there Monday, and they said, look, we applaud what you're doing, and we hope to get to that point soon, but right now, in fact, in a number of our jurisdictions, we're still not to full-day kindergarten. So I think it's different. Each jurisdiction is different. Each jurisdiction has different resources. I think that's part of the point about allowing localities some control over their own destiny. There's been times when New York City has really been in a tough situation, and we've had to turn to the state. There's been times when we've had more resources. Some of our communities upstate are really struggling right now. I mean, it's a different situation for each locality at each moment in history. But I think the bottom line here is, I think Commissioner King was talking about the fact that if you really want to get to that standard, full-day pre-K everywhere in the state, again, I think presidents lay that out as a goal everywhere in the country. It takes real work. It takes a real resource commitment, not rhetoric, a real resource commitment. And we're doing that here. The good news in New York City, which makes us different again from other parts of the state, is we have a strong platform to begin with. There are about 20,000 kids getting full day right now, about 40,000 kids getting half day. As I said throughout the campaign, 10,000 kids who applied and got nothing, which is absolutely inappropriate. So at least we're starting with something. But to build that out, the two jumps we've discussed, first bringing the full day number up to 54,000, then bringing the full day number up to 73,000. That takes a real focus, commitment, and real resources. We're in a position to do that here. Other parts of the state, it might take longer, but in New York City, we can do that now. And that is absolutely in the interest of our children and the future of our city, the future of our economy. Yes? The president has been so far ahead of the curve on this issue for years now. He's been talking about the focus on pre-K and early childhood education in general. And I was very gratified to hear him talk about it last night. In my conversations with him over the last few months, he constantly raises this issue. It's very much on his mind, and I commend him for that. I think it's actually a great moment in the history of this country when you have a president emphasizing early childhood education. I think it's incredibly enlightened. And it certainly encourages me to know that we're on the right track, that we're in fact doing what needs to be done everywhere around this country. And the people get it. It wouldn't be the first time that people are often ahead of their elected leaders. The people get it, and you've seen this extraordinary support for this proposal. Anything else on this? Let's talk about other things, shall we? You got one already, go ahead. I'll come back to you, Grace. Mm-hmm. We feel great about the situation across the board. We are making decisions on personnel in the same way we said we would from the beginning. We want highly effective people. We want people who share the values of this administration. We want people who reflect the diversity of New York City. One by one, we're finding folks at the highest quality levels. I had folks tell me, different pundits and different folks in public life tell me a few months ago how hard it would be to find really talented folks. I have not found that to be the problem. We're doing great. And one by one, we're filling those positions. Next week, you're going to see a flurry of appointments, which we're very, very excited about. But we're also thrilled that, coming into this administration, starting literally mid-year with our schools in the middle of the winter and all the dynamics that happen when you pick up the ball on January 1st, we think there's been tremendous continuity, great teamwork, and things are functioning really, really well. And we're going to just keep filling things out over the coming weeks, and we feel great about it. Michael? Well, the transition efforts are being wound down in terms of that structure. And that will be over the next few weeks. And the work will be increasingly done out of City Hall. Yes. Absolutely. First of all, I commend the Daily News. This is really important on many levels. First of all, if we're going to talk about addressing inequality, it begins with the challenge of wages and benefits. And our airport workers simply are not earning enough money to feed a family in many cases. And they certainly don't have the security and the benefits necessary for financial stability. So we have to think about this as a larger societal problem. But when it comes to the airport workers, we have a chance to do something about it because the airport is overseen by a public entity, by the Port Authority. And I think all of us in public life need to press for stronger wages and benefits in every way we can. So I think right there, because it would be a way of addressing inequality and a way of addressing the decline of the middle class, that's enough reason to take this action. Again, I commend the Daily News for pointing out that here is a place where we can really act. But there's a second piece of this, which is the security ramifications. Folks who work at airports, security workers in particular, but everyone who works at airports, is part of a team of people that keeps us safe. And we want folks who have job security, who have good wages and benefits, who are the kind of folks who will stay there long term and be part of that safety net for us. So I think it's a particularly sensitive location by definition, and people who work in such a place deserve decent wages and benefits. There's no question. I mean, look, if the pressure that the Daily News and others are putting on is finally yielding fruit, I say God bless that. We want that to happen, but I'm going to keep working to make sure that's something across the board at our airports. I'll make sure that the team fills in the blanks on those. I don't know all the details of specific expenses. I think the JetBlue tickets were related to some of the trips to see folks in the federal administration, but let me get them the details to you. Yes. No, I didn't. I did not. Absolutely inappropriate. Absolutely inappropriate. We're going to have moments between all of us in public life and all of you who do your job where we have disagreements or tensions, but it's absolutely inappropriate for it to be expressed in that manner. There has to be mutual respect, even when your questions are tough. Your job is to ask tough questions. But to physically threaten someone, that's something that no public servant should do. And I think he owes Mr. Scotto an apology. Yes. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Got you. Well, we're still working out the details, but I could not be more excited about the Super Bowl. I was at the event on Monday night in Jersey City, and there's just an incredible excitement about the Super Bowl being here. We're doing a ceremony at the Boulevard later on today, and I really want to say, I think this Boulevard is going to be extraordinary. A lot of family activities, a lot of really exciting stuff that's open to everyone, which is fantastic. I'm thrilled the Super Bowl is here, and I'm thrilled that the efforts by the NYPD and all the other city agencies have been so effective. And also there's been a lot of cooperation with our colleagues in New Jersey to get this done. So I feel great about it. I'll be attending a number of events, and we're still working on the schedule. still working on the schedule. Yes. Absolutely. You don't threaten reporters physically. It's a physical threat. It's unacceptable. And look, I think all of us who go into public life accept a higher set of standards. It's by definition. And I think that think about it from the point of view, we always have to ask the question, what does it say to our constituents? What does it say to the people? What does it say to our young people? A leader can't do that. It's just absolutely unacceptable. And if the leader does that, those in power, those in the leadership structure, have to speak out. So I would hope that the House leadership says very strongly, this is unacceptable behavior. Thank you, everyone.